Welcome to Vigorous Mindset. I'm Coach Steve, and let's talk a little bit about the role of you as a bodybuilder and your position in the rest of the world. Because I think a lot of people don't understand how big we are until you see your own pictures next to a normal person, a person that is moderately active but doesn't train for hypertrophy. Yeah, the word normal, it's offensive nowadays, right? So we can't say it that way anymore. So let's say the moderately active individual. You put a bodybuilder next to a moderately active individual, and the size difference is astronomical, especially when you start to break 225 pounds or more, 100 kilos or above. I think a lot of people forget how different we look. And as a bodybuilder, you don't really see it because your progression is so slow, unless you have insane genetics. But for the rest of us that have decent or average genetics, the progression of muscle gain is so slow that when you look at the mirror today, you feel exactly the same as when you looked at the mirror 10 years ago, but there might be 50 pounds difference or more, maybe 80 pounds, depending on how much muscle you put on. So you'll feel exactly the same. But other people, especially family members that you haven't seen or friends that you haven't seen for like 6 months, are like, dude, what did you eat? Who did you eat? What happened? Are you on the sauce? Are you on the creatine, bro? So you'll never see how fast you grow and how much different you are because you're always with yourself, right? And even you see yourself in the mirror, always looking for something to improve. You're never really happy. This is the curse of bodybuilding, basically. You're always trying to improve something, always trying to be bigger. And especially when you start comparing yourself to some of the, guys on Instagram or the bigger guys in the gym that probably got 10 years more experience than you do. When you're comparing yourself to those guys, and I noticed it in my gym now too, some of the younger guys coming up, they're comparing themselves to me. Dude, you need, wait 10 years and then you can compare yourself, when you're about the same age or you got 20 years in the fitness industry as well. It's a progression for everybody, but you don't realize how big you are compared to, the average individual or the people who don't train for hypertrophy until you see a picture. And you're like, man, I dwarf this guy or girl, especially the girls, you dwarf are a little bit easier. And you as a person, as a bodybuilder, you got to understand that all the people who don't train for hypertrophy, when they look at you, they might be, it exerts an emotion. It might be an emotion of disgust, or it might be an emotion of admiration or confusion or, whatever. It depends on how much exposure they've had to bodybuilders, right? So, for example, I went to Japan 2 years ago, and Japanese people are great. They're super positive and they're hilarious. So you're walking, unfortunately, they don't speak so much English, but they try to do their best, right? So, let's say I was 105 kilos, not too big, a little bit off season, walking around, and people would run across the street shouting, sugoi or something along those lines, because they were amazed. The emotion that I was able to get out of them just by walking around and being a bodybuilder was that in amazement, right? And admiration and respect. So that's Japan. But when you come to some other countries, like Thailand, for example, people are confused most of the time. They look at you like, what the hell's going on? So they might just stare at you. And then, if you're a little bit prone to anxiety, you feel a bit stared at and you get confused yourself. Like, why is this person staring at me? They're confused because you're so big. You're confused because you're staring. Everybody's confused. But who's at fault here? The person that's staring at you? Or you by being twice the size of everybody else? You have to keep it into perspective. And I think a lot of guys forget that, how much different we look compared to everybody else. And sometimes you get annoyed. I know, I get the same thing. You go somewhere and people start like, whoa. And it's a blank expression because they're confused and they don't really know what to say, or they may be shy to approach you and talk to you. And then sometimes the phone comes out and they start taking pictures, and now you're a little bit pissed off because of the invasion of privacy, right? We did it to ourselves. I have to say that I'm a little bit older. We're doing it to ourselves. This kind of response that we're getting from other people, right? Whether that's positive or negative. by training, and even though we didn't ask for it, it's a response that we're going to get regardless. That's the byproduct of getting big. So by putting on muscle, automatically you consent to a wide variety of reactions from people who don't train for hypertrophy, because you're different. You know, and you can even exacerbate that by, you know, covering your body in tattoos or having a big beard or you know, exorbitant clothing. You know, it's, for us, it's very normal because of this small bubble that is bodybuilding and the fitness industry. But it's a very small bubble, man. It's very small. And as soon as you step out of the gym, the kitchen, or the grocery store, or the YouTube or the Instagram, you're very different compared to everybody else. And you as a bodybuilder, especially if you're a little bit bigger, when you represent bodybuilding by being a bodybuilder and being bigger, now you have to represent it in a positive sense. So, and I still struggle with this, guys. I know it's very difficult. You go out and you get stared at, or people approach you with the condescending questions about steroids and creatine, or it's a little bit exhausting, you know, the repetitive super beginner questions from people that don't train for hypertrophy. And you know, you just got to take it with a smile. This is the baggage that came along by putting on a little bit of muscle, because, you know, people are either curious, they're either scared, they're either confused about how you look, or they're admired. And the guys that are admired, sometimes they get a little bit too excited. You know, when I was in Japan, they got very excited. You know, I took a lot of pictures. I have no idea where they ended up. Maybe on, what is it called? 2 channel, you know, the Japanese message board. You're never really sure. So you do your best, and you keep your composure and smile and laugh for the camera. And if they want you to flex, you just flex, man, as hard as you can. Because turning a picture down is, you know, or being moody because somebody stares at you. You're basically putting a blemish on everything that is bodybuilding. And I've done it many times, and I'm very sorry to say it. And I feel, you know, a little bit bad about it. And it's something very difficult to deal with the people that don't train for hypertrophy, depending on their response and, you know, how they interact with you. But just by being big, you're automatically representing everything that is bodybuilding compared, you know, in the eyes of the, you know, the people who don't train for hypertrophy. Yeah, I kind of have to repeat it because you're not allowed to say average or normal anymore. So in the eyes of those people, if you bring a positive light and take the pictures and answer the questions and take it with a smile and a grain of salt, and, you know, whatever condescending questions come your way about steroids, just answer them. Which is also funny, you know, when some guys that expect you to lie. This is usually the younger crowd, you know. Yes, which steroids do you take? You know, they're a little bit ballsy because they've been on the internet since they were born. They're a little bit ballsy, and they ask, which steroids do you take? You just answer them. So I took a handful of Dianabol this morning or last night, and I woke up like this. You know, just play off. Just bounce a sarcastic ball right back and forth, you know. Just take it with a smile, guys. It will make life a lot easier. And even if you're suffering from a little bit of anxiety and have trouble dealing with the people who don't train for hypertrophy, laughing it off and just answering the questions and flexing as asked, it will put everything to ease. And I hope that helps, guys. Stay swole, still big, and take it with a smile and a grain of salt. Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.